Ladies and gentlemen, we made it to a victory week finally. I mean, finally. Like, it took long enough, right? Am I right? Week 3, the Colts finally figured out a way to win a football game, and they wound up doing it against the Chicago Bears. It was a roller coaster of emotions. If I was to be honest, I think we can all agree to that. Show of hands. Um, to be honest, this Colts game gives you a sign of life, a sign of positivity to look on the bright side of things. Of course, granted, it wasn't well polished, it wasn't a clean victory. Of course, it had its hurdles and, a bunch of flags and missed calls and things of that nature. And then we'd have a few injuries like Kenny Moore and Quiddy Pay of that to that nature, to that certain extent that went down with injuries. So it was pretty tough to lose both of those guys. Even Latu was a little bit, still recovering from his injury from last week, but he went out there and balled out. Shout out to Latu, man. Latu got a nice strip fumble on Caleb Williams at the end of the game. And, his impact was definitely noticed this week, even with a bunch of pressures and things of that nature. This defense has to get its flowers. Like, I don't think they get enough credit for what they did this week. The Colts defense definitely took a huge step up from what they did the last 2 weeks. This was a question going into the year, how the Colts defense was going to look, but pressure wise, they looked very, very well. The secondary wasn't a huge issue. So like I said, going into the season, I predicted this Colts defense will only have a high success rate due to the pressure they put on the quarterback. And I think everybody can agree to that as well. We all know that's the total of the situation when you look at the Colts defense is how much pressure can the defense line put on the QB to make this secondary look pretty decent. And to be fair, this defense looked very good. Of course, it had its hiccups and things in the moments, but overall, in total, I think this defense kept us in the game and in victory formation the whole game. Of course, EJ Speed had a one play when he was matched up against a Duze, in which I cannot say enough. That cannot happen. It can't. We love EJ Speed. We know he's a phenomenal player. He's a great talent. But if we had an option to take him away from some of the fast receivers in coverage 101, let's do that. Let's not put him in a bad position. Of course, he's dynamic and he's talented. He can go for the ball. He can tackle. But if we can separate him from playing one-on-one man coverage against a top speedy wide receiver, let's not do that. Especially a young guy like Adunze. Adunze had himself a good game. We can give him that. But again, the defense, I said, like I mentioned, they have to get their flowers. Adetume Adewale had a great play. Latu was a force to be reckoned with all game. EJ Speed and Zaire, they pretty much held their own. Zaire has some nice plays. We got to give our flowers to Quiddy Pay. He had some big plays as well. Tyquan Lewis looked really, really fast against the Bears front today. Of course, the Bears front had Matt Pryor. That's a former Colts player that Colts fans love to eternity. Colts fans loved Matt Pryor in Indianapolis. I'm being sarcastic. Other than that, Taven Bryan surprisingly had himself a good game. A lot of fans were on the spectrum about Taven Bryan, being a three tech and moving for DeForest Buckner's replacement, but he had himself a really good game. I was impressed. I was impressed. I'm not gonna lie. I loved it. I loved his energy. I loved his effort. He had a really good game, and that has to go. That goes a long way in Colts fandoms for a player that a lot of people are on edge about having a good game. It's going to turn some heads. I'm pretty sure it did. Julian Blackman had he could have had 3 interceptions today, in my opinion. He could have had 3 interceptions. Nick Cross could have had one. Nick Cross had a good game as well. Shout out to Nick Cross. But the ultimate player of the game goes to, if it's not Kenny Moore, it's Jalen Jones. Jalen Jones is another Colts player. Colts fans were skeptical about having rep wise. Of course, the potential is through the roof. He had bad games, but this game he stepped up to the plate and made some amazing plays. And this just bangs the anvil or toots the horn to Chris Ballard. Chris Ballard did not go out there and pay top dollar for corners in free agency. He didn't trade for any. He put all of his tricks in the hat for the guys he have on the roster. The young guys go out there and play, make a play, make a name for themselves. Earn experience through reps. They got to go out there and pretty much be in the fire to make themselves household names for the Colts. And Jalen Jones did that today. Jalen Jones made some incredible plays today, and I think he could have had an even better game, but it was just moments that just slipped up. But Jalen Jones had himself a very good game, man. Jalen Jones is secretly starting to become one of my favorite players on the Colts defense. Of course, my favorite players are Juju Brents. Of course, he's been battling injuries, so it is what it is with that. But Juju Brents, Kenny Moore, and Julian Blackmon are my favorite guys for sure. But Jalen Jones is sneakily climbing up the charts, becoming one of my favorite underrated players on the Colts roster, man. This defense deserves all the credit for what they did this week. They really balled out and stepped up, even though they did not have DeForest Buckner. I think that says a lot. Even if DeForest Buckner was playing, I think it would have been a more of a show, honestly, because DeForest Buckner is just a dog at what he does. Caleb Williams on the other side, he struggled a lot, and we're going to get to our offense after this, but Caleb Williams, he got a banged up offensive line, and the Colts did what they were supposed to do. They were supposed to put pressure on him. Now, of course, Caleb broke some ankles today, made a few nice little elusive moves, but the ball was just sailing. It was just sailing all day. Couldn't really hit a few targets. He tried to go with the wide receiver screen, the bubbles to DJ Moore, but Kenny Moore just knows he's one of the best slot corners in the game, one of the best nickels in the game. And he pretty much picked all of that up when it comes to his side of the football. But other than that, like I said, Caleb Williams really struggled. The run game struggled for Chicago. And to be honest, if you had any type of sense going into this week, if you're matched up against the Colts, you would think running the ball against the Colts would be the identity, but it really wasn't. Chicago threw the ball over 30 times today, which was, kind of crazy in my opinion. But hey, to each his own. They played to the Colts speed, and the Colts pretty much took advantage of it. If you were smart, you would run the football against this team. We were one of the worst teams in run defense so far this season, but they did not take advantage of it. And, it is what it is. A victory is a victory. So we're going to take it and we're going to run with it and be happy. Of course, on the other side, the Titans lost, the Houston Texans lost. So the Colts, still got a chance to win this division. It's still early. Like I said, you got to be patient. You're going to have hiccups regardless of the situation, whether you win or lose. You're going to have hiccups, especially with a young quarterback like Anthony Richardson, in which we're going to talk about now. Excuse me. In which we're going to talk about now, the offense has still not figured it out what they want to do with the tempo, with the adjustments, playing down a little bit, setting the tone, pushing the pace, running the football. They did not figure out yet still their identity on the offensive side. But, that did not cancel them out of the game. They still won the game, and they figured out how to win. And how to win is by doing what? We all know it. Running the football. Running the football with Jonathan Taylor in the backfield. And his backup is my GOAT, my dog, Trey Sermon. If that's your backup, that's how you win the game. Jonathan Taylor is there to help Anthony Richardson through his development. That's why he got drafted there. His ceiling is amazing. Anthony Richardson's ceiling is amazing. He has the potential to be really good when the game starts to slow down. He has the chance to be a really good quarterback. But you can do that by taking your time, making a few passes and plays for him. But ultimately, your goal should still be Jonathan Taylor. You just paid him to come back. He had a whole contract situation last year and sat out. And now you have him back. You have to take advantage of that. And they sure enough did. Jonathan Taylor had himself a heck of a game today. There was a lot of plays where runners didn't go anywhere. But at the end of the day, Jonathan Taylor still looked like his natural self. Now, of course, there was a play when, he got thrown the ball and dropped it, but he wound up bouncing back on a screenplay and just going crazy. Jonathan Taylor had himself a good game, over 100 yards rushing, touchdown galore. He had him in the open field is just a dangerous sight. And Jonathan Taylor, we appreciate your services. He's an ultimate dog. He's one of my go-to guys. I will never lose faith in Jonathan Taylor when he has the football in his hand. And the offensive line, they picked it up. They figured it out on the run game. So they get kudos as well. Will Fries had himself a good game. Quentin Nelson had himself a good game. But Anthony Richardson, on the other hand, still has time to develop. He still needs time. A lot of passes just did not get there. Josh Downs came back to first game today. It was his first game back. And, the communication wasn't all the way there because he missed a few games. Now, of course, we got the bomb to Alec Pierce today. And, and he's still going to be that go-to guy, in my opinion. Like I said, I thought Alec Pierce would have himself a good season, and so far 3 games in, I think he's having himself a very much better season than he did last year. And Michael Pittman Jr. He's an aggressive. He had a lot of aggressive reps today on targets. So shout out to Alec Pierce. The tight end room still needs to figure it out. My twin Callan Granson he caught a pass today, so shout out to him. But the running room, I think, was the ultimate goal for the offense. I think the run game figured it out. I would love to see Anthony Richardson run the ball a little bit more. Of course, he has a few option plays where we thought it was going to be Anthony Richardson on the run, but they had it all dialed in. So, I mean, Shane Steichen just got to figure it out. Honestly, the identity of the team, going for it on a few times. The play calling was just not it, in my opinion, on the offensive side. But they will figure it out. Like I said, the defense, if they can play like that and give the offense time to figure it out, when they do start hitting on all cylinders, the Colts are going to be a scary sight moving forward. Like I said, I have the ultimate confidence in this team. I feel like they can pull it off. They can do it. So it's only a matter of time for it to happen. Anthony Richardson still has to, he has to settle down on the throws, man. A lot of footballs he thrown today just wasn't hitting on targets. A lot of the footballs sailed, like the turnovers, the plays on the goal line, the red zone offense was just terrible today as well. But like I said, Anthony Richardson is going to figure it out. You know, one of the things about him is like when he starts to struggle and take his time, he figures it out mid game. It's not going to take a whole game for him to figure out, all right, what do I have to do better? He takes the mistakes, he takes it on the chin, he understands, and he's going to develop during that process as well. And that's one of the things I like about Anthony Richardson. He's a fast learner, and he's still learning the game, like he's still understanding. But he's so dynamic is that he can adjust in due time. So that's one of the bright spots about him. He'll keep you in the game and he'll throw you out the game as well, but he'll keep you in it as well. So that's one of the positive sides about having him as your QB. And like I said, having Jonathan Taylor in your backfield with you, it's an ultimate prize. Trey Sermon, he got himself a nice touchdown today as well. So shout out to Trey Sermon. But this team's still fighting, regardless of the situation. They're still fighting. It's a beautiful thing to see. We got a ultimate challenge coming up next week, but we'll talk about it later at another time. But again, the Colts won. It's victory week. We guys can relax. We can celebrate and be happy. You guys let me know your thoughts. And until next time, I will see you guys. I'm out.